So, Bob Woodward, I'll get pounced on if I don't ask about Bob Woodward. Everybody knows he's got a book about to drop called Rage about the Trump administration. And much of the advance publicity has focused on whether he should have told the world that President Trump, as far back as February, had said that was seeking to downplay the danger of coronavirus. So what would you like to go on the record on that topic? Should Woodward have told the world back in February?
You'd like me to make some news, huh? Well, here's what I would
Sure.
say. Is that, look, I mean, I'm always prepared to talk about the Post and our decisions, including my own. I realize that in the current era, a lot of journalists like to comment on what their fellow journalists are doing, what they're saying, what they're writing. I've actually made a practice of not doing that. I really try to limit my commentary to the rights, responsibilities, and the mission of an independent press, and also to how the Post is trying to fulfill that mission. And Bob works independently on his books. So what happens is that he works on them, and then he works on them a long time. And when he's ready to share what's in those books, then he shares them. Typically, he shares them with us a few weeks before the public release of the book, and that's when we learn what's in them, and that's when we publish. And that's what happened in this instance as well. There are many people out there who've suggested that we in the Post sat on all this information for months on end, and that's just absolutely false. About Bob, all I would say is this. I mean, the truth is, I'm kind of skeptical that the disclosure of these quotes would have changed the president's behavior, or the public's behavior, or the course of history. Recently, I was just reading last night, as a matter of fact, Susan Glasser in the New Yorker. She pointed out that at every step along the way, the president has been called on his public misstatements and his falsehoods about the virus, and none of it made a difference whatsoever. My sense is the president would have found a way to dissemble, as he has in the past, and even now he's talking about how he was seeking to avoid panic, saying that he was seeing his responsibility as trying to calm the public, although that's not a principle that he's pursued in what he has said or done on pretty much any other subject, whether it's about racial justice protests or during the election, offering this very dystopian image of what might happen under a Democratic president. But I would say that, one other thing I would mention is, actually another thing I was reading last night is David Frum in The Atlantic pointed out that 2 days before Trump made his comment about downplaying the pandemic, and that was in March, where he made that quote. 2 days before that, Trump had said that he said something like, "I felt it was a pandemic before it was called a pandemic." Now he may have been more blunt in using the word downplay and talking to Woodward, but the thrust of those remarks is essentially the same. And the question is, did that quote about saying he felt it was a pandemic before it was actually called a pandemic, did that change anything? Did the public explode in outrage? Did people's behaviors change? Did devout followers all of a sudden, and COVID skeptics, did they all of a sudden start wearing masks and forswearing protests against lockdowns and things like that? I mean, David pointed out in the Atlantic piece, he said, we often forget what we ourselves witnessed. And I suspect that Bob wanted to give a more holistic portrait of this president, rather than just breaking off one newsy quote. So I think it's complicated, but it's really, it's obviously Bob's decision, and Bob has spoken to it. And